I am here to present the guest this afternoon. So I'm honored to be able to present artist Ben Steele. All of you probably know that's who you're here to see, but if you just happened in, that's who's on tap for today. And he's here from his studio in Helper, Utah, to speak with us about his work. Save your applause for him. I'll call him out in a second. So if you've not seen his work, we have some of it on display right now. The Ben Steele Pop of Art exhibition upstairs, right off the Wildlife Gallery. You can see some of his work in person, and I encourage you to do that after the talk. Mr. Steele, of course, is known for melding classic art history with pop culture, stimulating conversation between the old and the new, and he creatively leverages that classical training that he has and combines it with contemporary sensibilities, and is always adding something ironic, witty, unique from his perspective if you've seen his work. His work has very broad appeal, whether you live and breathe for the old masters and want to see, him recreating works from Dali and things like that, or if you're interested in Crayola and Etch-a-Sketch, there's something that you're going to recognize in his work. And so he's got layers of that and tons of diversity to his work as well, which keeps us coming back for more. And I could go on and on about Ben and his skill and his craft and all of that, but I think if you're like me, you'd prefer to just have him talk. So, Ben, if you will come out, remember to flick on your microphone. And now you guys can clap for him. Yeah.
Okay. Is that working? We good?
You're good.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming here. Navigated through the traffic. It sounds like today was extra special. It's really a pleasure to be here. This is my wife, Melanie. I often, I'll say a lot of we's because we are really a team. We do a lot of stuff together, and we'll kind of go over that through the presentation. But yeah, I just want to thank the whole James gang here, Tom and Mary and Ernest and everybody for having us. It's really an honor to be here. So I think we kind of wanted to just go over quickly what we will cover today, and just give you a quick overview. One of my favorite artists, as you can imagine, as the exhibit upstairs talks about pop, that's big influence on me. Andy Warhol said, everybody will be famous for 15 minutes, and today we get 45, so I guess I'm extra special. So yeah, we're gonna kind of do a little run through here. Of course, we'll start with background. Of course, we got to go over my history and how we got here a little bit, and then we'll kind of go over our studio and the process we go through, and then of course distractions. We've got to have a lot of those, and kind of what those are, and then maybe the future. And the question I get asked a lot: how am I going to get replaced? So to start, let's make it all about me, or us, really. So I was born in 1977 in Washington State, and my dad had an art degree. He went to art school, and he didn't become an artist, but I think his influence was always there, that even though he didn't make art, his college paintings were in our house. And his influence of art, it was getting shoved in there right away. And my mother, although she didn't have an art background, she was very encouraging. She thought when I was 2 years old that I had a special ability to be really finite. She thought the way I would draw was just a little more finite than she thought a 2-year-old should do it, I guess. And so. I think that combination always put art as a thing that was on my radar. That her encouragement and the presence of it being there for him with what he did. So in 1993, my family moved to Utah, and I decided to become a golfer. You'd think that maybe I'd be an artist, and I get to use that now, but we moved to St. George, to the southern part of the state. That's really it's very much like Las Vegas, and I got enrolled. My mom thought I needed something to do, so she enrolled me into a like a beginning golf class that was put on through, I think, the college, through the community. And I grew to love golf. And for a while, wanted to pursue it even as try to be a professional player, but shockingly, I wasn't good enough. And after about 7 years of that, I realized that it was not something I wanted to continue to pursue, that I'd feel like it had run a dead end. And I had been doing a business degree first at the community college there at the time, and then at the university that's about 45 minutes away. And I didn't really love that. It was oriented more toward, I think, big business, and I probably saw myself more as a sole proprietor. And it didn't excite me, and I thought, I should go back and study the thing that I've always loved, the art. That was the one thing that, throughout my life was this, I'd had interest in, but never really, jumped into. So I went to talk to the art teacher from the community college and said, what do you think the best program is in the state? Because I'm probably not going to transfer out of state because I don't have the money. So where am I going to go that I can go affordably? And he said the University of Utah. He thought BYU and the University of Utah are really good, and so that was where I went. I moved to Salt Lake and went to study art there in 2000. So right away I kind of made I found a teacher that I really liked I thought was a great instructor, and I took 7 classes from him, and he said, you really should think about going to this little town a couple hours south of Salt Lake, Helper, where there's a few professors that were retired from the university but would still teach summer workshops there. And it's called Helper. And so we haven't left, by the way. Big spoiler here. We're still here. So in the summer of 2002, I went to take there. They had 3 workshops that summer, and I took them all. And it was kind of this immersion into, I think, college is kind of, in college athletics, it's like semi-professional, right? These are athletes getting prepped for the future, and that's what college, I think, is kind of in general. It's prepping you for a career. It's not all the way, but you're starting to learn what being a professional is. Going to Helper and working with Dave Dornan and Paul Davis in their workshops was like, oh, this is an art life. These are people making a living doing art, and I want this. And I was really lucky that I only had 1 semester to graduate, or I would have dropped out and moved to Helper right then. But Mel and I both were just a semester away from graduating, so we stuck it out. She would have stuck it out, but I stuck it out, and we got to Helper the next summer. Dave and his wife Mary Lou own an old hotel building in Helper, and the main floor is converted to art space, and the upstairs that were the hotel or brothel in its day. We'll give you a little more detail of Helper's history. It's Utah generally, everybody thinks Utah is a Mormon state, and that's true, except for Park City and Helper, which have their own little history. So anyway, we get down and kind of get, that immersive environment there. It was overwhelming because it's, you're doing it every day. And I remember starting at the university like a 3-hour art class, which is what the usual studio classes are, 3 hours, and thinking, and by the end it's like, whoa, 3 hours. I'm like crushed, from 3 hours of actual hard work. And you go there and you're doing 8 hours a day at the workshops, right? And then most everybody that would have dinner and then go back and you could have time to work on your own thing. So you're trying to keep up, with what the assignments they're giving you, so you're back working at night. And even though that's overwhelming, it was, I think, invigorating, and it's what, this is what I wanted to do. And it really clicked. At the moment I started the art program at the university, I felt like this is what I should be doing. This is the thing I haven't been doing that I need to be doing. So in summer of 2003, the following year, we were invited by Dave and Mary Lou, that owned the building, to move down to Helper and be Dave's kind of intern apprentice. He had several artists. That was, an informal program, but he'd been doing this with several other University of Utah students before me. And in fact, that summer there were 5 of us that moved down for the summer as kind of interns in the building, and then 3 of them left to go back to school and finish up, and then me and another guy were there kind of just through the winter. And I ended up being there for 2 years in their building painting. And so the process of that was kind of under Dave Dornan's tutelage he was really focused on, how do you find your style? How do you find your specific thing? His encouragement to me was paint things you like. That felt like, paint a lot and paint things you like, and figure out from there, like, I think it will reveal, like we see, your personality can't be suppressed. When people ask me, how do you find your style? I'll say, work a lot and you'll find it keeps repeating. You can't get away from it. We all have our specific personalities and you can't deny those things. So, in fact, I see, when just coming through the museum here, it's really awe-inspiring to see how many great artists there are. Like, there's so much, great technique in all different genres of that, and I think of that as it's very hard to stand out in this. I mean, it was very much present in my thought as I'm there to go, how do you stand out? I mean, I felt like I had this really great instruction. These teachers were providing great technique and great nuts and bolts things on how to be an artist, but how do you stand out in that? And I think it was very much, I'm still in awe of that it's really hard to make your way and to stand out where there's so much talent out there. And so, I try to, hopefully it's a good push to always try to be improving your craft and improving how you think. So for me, what really started with Dave encouraging, paint things you like. Well, what are those things? So I found I particularly had interest in chrome objects. And so I started doing a lot of still lifes with that. And then I was also, I did a few abstract things and just playing around, but crayons were one of the other still life things I really took to. And that snowballed. So of course you paint a crayon, and then what's the next thing you think? Well, if I'm doing a crayon, what about a coloring book page or something like that, like an image? And so, of course, if you're going to do that, what's the kids' imagery is what you do, and that's not exciting to me. I loved art history, so of course the Mona Lisa has to be the first thing that you do if you're going to do art history. And that was my very first, that is the very first one I ever did that had an art history theme or something like that in it. And that's kind of where I adopted that almost like overhead perspective. Like I think it works, the idea of the kid's space is down. They might be on a desk as you're looking down, or they often, my 5-year-old spends a lot of time with me at the studio, and there's a lot going on the floor. And so maybe it was a natural for me to see, but yeah, so that kind of snowballed. The more I did chrome, the more I did crayons, I think I found that the crayons offered more range. And then I thought, well, why does it have to just be crayons? I was at Walmart one day checking out, and they have little Pez dispensers right there by checkout, and thought, what if you took like a Rembrandt self-portrait and just put it on a Pez dispenser in a painting? So here I'm back, of course, with Warhol, because he shows up a lot, but with his Marilyns. But yeah, that kind of led, it just kept snowballing to go, why can't it be a landscape? So why can't it be that? This is actually a picture of a building from Helper. It's an old theater, and we've let Van Gogh have his way with it. So this kind of, that art history theme kind of takes over. The chrome things were good, but I felt like I cut my teeth on learning how to see and paint with those things. The reflections, they're a challenging thing to paint, and that was good to get, still learning my chops there as a painter, or trying to, improve. But the crayon things were exciting. That kind of social, you're having pop culture and art history and these different things. And so then I think we're going to show a painting here that is kind of was a change for me. We've taken Caravaggio and his Doubting Thomas. So a lot of our stuff is simple puns, and in this case, Doubting Thomas is a literal thing that we've swapped Christ for Thomas Kincaid. And they're touching it to see if it's real, because, Kincaid was there's a lot of strong opinions about Kincaid, and within, I'd say, the art community, he's probably generally not really loved. But amongst artists that I know, he's not a favorite. But I think what he did, the core of what I was trying to get to here, is what he did to his art marketing. So he blurred the lines between what's an original and what's a print. And I think it was blurred because he intended it to be blurred. He was trying to make it a little confusing in that way. About when you have, did he highlight it? There's like the whole pricing structure of, do you want one he highlighted or one his team of people highlighted, or these prints? And so, the essence I'm trying to get to in this painting was, we're touching, is it real? Is this a print? Is this a real thing? So this was I still own this painting, in fact, because what I did to honor him, truly, I made 5 giclées, the same size as the original, and I highlighted them. And I sold those as the piece, because at the time, the story was he wouldn't sell his originals because they were too valuable to sell, and he was keeping them all and just selling the prints. And I thought, well, I can do that. So he would sign his name with the Christian fish above his name, and I put the money symbol. I want to, in a sense, make fun of him, but I remember seeing somebody making fun of him by turning his houses into like war scenes and things like that, and trying to mock him, and those are funny. But I think what Mel and I want to do is try if we can to get to the essence of something, and do it with somewhat good-natured in that way, and not be so obvious. So that try to attack him on what I think his meaning really is, not just what I think of the imagery or how I feel about that, but to go, what was he really doing in the art marketplace, and how was he changing that? Because he was in every shopping mall. So everybody knows who he is. And so, in fact, I remember one time reading in an art book, somebody saying, people hate on Kincaid, but he did a lot for art in general and creating art interest, and the people that want maybe more art education will carry on and move maybe to something more sophisticated in that. And so that almost like, we should have a little bit of gratitude that he's bringing a lot of people to this as a level of interest. So, try to keep an open mind and get to do that. But this painting was a big deal for me, I think, realizing that we could make a little bit of social commentary, not just using it, but actually commenting on that. And not every painting I do has commentary in it necessarily, but I think it was, again, it felt like it opened up new doors, new things that we could do that, ultimately keep us engaged, because I love going to the studio every day. I have fun painting. I don't ever feel like I don't want to go work. And I got to keep it exciting, though, to do that. Like, it can't get boring. And so how do you keep expanding? That was kind of, I think, or how does it keep being fresh to us in a way that we could be exciting? So, of course, in the meantime, we're building the art career. We're also building a life. We have 3 boys, and so we have a big life. We're going to see. This is my first studio that we bought. So I worked in Dave and Mary Lou's building for 2 years, and then we were able to buy. One of the reasons they really promoted Helper was there's not a lot of distractions. It's a small community, and it's a cheap place to live. Dave would say, you move to New York, and that's great. You want to be an artist. But pretty soon you're working 3 jobs to pay for your apartment, and you're not creating art. And so Helper is about this immersive art experience where you can go, live cheaply, and chase the art dream effectively. So we bought that studio for $72,000 in 2005. And that, I still needed a loan of $10,000 from grandma to get the down payment to do it. Of course, because we're self-employed, nobody wants to give us any money. So yeah, to get started. So that's kind of, you can see, like, I had this pegboard wall inside here, and where I would kind of have paintings going. And I worked here from 2005 to the summer of 2019. So we spent a long time there, and really kind of built our life through there with our first 2. We'll see our oldest 2 sons when they weren't quite as old, with me in front of probably the piece that I'm most known for, if there's at least in Utah, because it's a riff off of Norman Rockwell. It's gets confusing. We call the painting Mormon Rockwell because it's which spurs off on, this is how things happen. Like 10 years before I do this painting, another artist friend of mine, we're talking about a Utah-based painter, and he goes, oh, he just illustrates stuff for the church. He's just like Mormon Rockwell. And I was like, oh, that's so funny. Not thinking we should, later this is going to be a name and inspire a whole piece. But somehow I got to there's a painting, the painting it's based on is by Norman Rockwell of a sailor getting tattoos. So he's getting a tattoo of what maybe looks like a new girlfriend or something on his arm, but there's a bunch crossed out above it where we're moving on. So here, Brigham, this is Brigham Young. I found it, there's an amazing profile portrait, and he's not getting him crossed out, he's adding wives to his arm. So we're making a little bit of fun here at our Utah reality. It's when I moved to Utah, I have a great aunt who lives in Salt Lake that was a convert to the church, but knew her none, had no Mormon connections. And so it was this total, culture, there was some culture shock in the way of like, what is this? But I looked, because I was clean cut and looked like everybody else in Utah, I just got a pass. Like everyone thought I must have been in somebody else's ward, so nobody hassled me. I passed for being a member of the church, so I never got any, I was accepted. In fact, it was nice. I felt more accepted there than I did in Washington State. So Mel, she grew up, though, LDS in her family, and so I've really got a good insight into, what that's like, that even though she's no longer, she'd married me, so that kind of ruined her staying active in the church. But, it's really I love Utah. I think that one of the appeals of where we live, so Helper was, because it was a railroad mining community. And so like Park City, not the Park City we know now, which is also not that Mormon, but both Park City and Helper were mining communities. So they had a lot of immigrants. So we have a Catholic church on Main Street because it was all these Eastern, Greeks, Slovenians, Italians moving there. So instead of having Mormon roots, we have those roots, which is why we have a lot of brothels, because there were a ton of men and no women. So there were like 7 brothels in a town of, at the time, like 2,000 or 3,000 people. And so we actually, we'll get to see, we've actually made a little fun with that on our new studio, which is about a half mile away. It's on Main Street, but it's out of the downtown. It's right on the edge of town. We got this old, it was an ice and bottling building that was a classic Helper family, Italians, the Bergeras, and they started bottling like any kind of soda besides Pepsi, and they made ice, and then they became a Coors distributorship, and by 1990 it was basically abandoned, just kind of was used for storage. Nothing much happened there until we bought it in 2017, and then we slowly renovated that. It took, by October of 2017, I didn't move in until June of 2019. So we basically had to gut it and start over and slowly string along. This time, instead of grandma loaning us, it was my sister. She was funding us, supporting us again, because it was $145,000, and the bank's like, no way, like not to you. So we ended up kind of started with that ugly gray, and there weren't even windows. Those are us breaking the brick out to get the windows back. I guess when they became a Coors distributorship in the 50s, they probably didn't want any light to get the beer. So they had blocked everything over. So not exactly conducive. As much as you'll hear artists say they love natural light, which is not really me. I'm more artificial light. I control, but I have these big windows in the front where that's kind of where my the 5-year-old hangs out, his little corner. But it is nice to have some light. So anyway, it gave us a cool opportunity to do some murals on the building and use the community. We wanted to reflect the community and its history, because as much as we're not original, we're a transplant, just like people, all the coal miners coming there. We're just artists this time. But we did some references. So welcome to historic Helper, and we're crossing it out. It was, our brothels are now swapped out for art. We thought that was appropriate, that we would be the new brothel. Is the artists and the company stores, food and retail. And so yeah, just getting to play with the community. And then the crayon box, of course, I'm probably most known for painting crayons. So we did a crayon box, and it says 27 diverse colors on top because there were supposedly 27 different languages spoken in Helper through its time. So again, the black crayon is coal black, where it's used, and it's well used, right? It's been worn down here. Because of course there's still a coal train that goes through every day, but nothing. I think it had 27, or not 27 mines, but what were there, like, I don't know. There were a ton of mines in the county, and now there's like one. So yeah, kind of trying to use that. And now we're gonna let me stop talking for a minute and watch a little video that is done by I thought was a good, it's like a recap of what we are, and give you the visuals that tie to that the county tourism did here, a little quick video. We'll let that play.
I'm Steele. I'm an artist here in Helper. When I decided to follow art, I went to the U up in Salt Lake. I was told there by an art teacher that you should really go down and study with Dave Dornan in Helper. That's how we get here. It's 20 years in June this year, so I've lived longer here than anywhere else in my life. Helper feels like it's a bigger town than it is. We have this strangely little bit of urbanness, yet still you're a half mile out and you're just out in the wilderness. Our 3-year-old, he discovered the four-wheeler this year, and I pick him up from daycare and we head out on the trails. I just get lost in thought when I'm out there. Our kids, they have so much buy-in. Like, I was actually joking with my son today on the way to school. I said, what if we're ready to sell and move to St. George? Because I lived in St. George before. He's like, no way, never leaving. I think the people here are very proud of their community. I think that as a transplant coming in, we could kind of develop that in ourselves over our 20 years of being here.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool thing. We get to, I think we get the honor of representing our community a little bit that way, and it's I feel like we adopted Helper, Helper adopted us, one or the other, and it's hard to visualize, like we said in the video, of leaving now because it's such a part of that. I mean, Dave and Mary Lou, that we're here, she's watching our 3 kids for what they need. So yeah, they're like, she's like our godmother of our children, and they're like adopted family. So it's really, yeah, we carved out our little niche there, and so it's hard to imagine leaving at this point because it's so integral to our development of our, with the kids and the art and all of that. It's our home. And that, now the irony with that is, so our 5-year-old refers to my studio as the shop. And so he'll say, it's Daddy's shop, or we're gonna go to Mama's house. And that's, because I kind of, it's a passion. Like I said, I like to go work every day. I'm excited to go. I love doing it. And I work 7 days a week, essentially. If I'm not traveling, I'm usually at the studio. I tried to take Christmas off, but in the afternoon, he's like, no, we're going. I want to have my chicken nuggets. I want to play my Legos. So we're going to the studio, Dad. You're going to go. So even, we've created such a routine, we're habitualized that he's pushing me. I can't get out of it. So yeah, we do. I'm there 7 days a week. These to kind of show you some of the things. The moving to the new studio was a big change for us. In fact, it was hard. I mean, it was a growth thing to go. At first, it felt like it was too big and too grand in a way, even though it wasn't a good shape to have this much space. We have about 10,000 square feet. And that it was hard to, I had to change how I viewed myself a little bit in that way and kind of grow into that. And I think that's, hopefully ongoing. But keep trying to grow both as an artist and as a person, be a better husband, right? Yeah, she taught, obviously, so, I joke with it, I'm a functional workaholic. We try to, the new studio allowed for that, where like the 5-year-old has a whole play area in the front. Everybody has computer stations in the family, so everyone has a place there where they can come and hang out and my 13-year-old has just been there over the last, we get often asked, do your kids show a proclivity for art? And I would say both the older boys show that. The 5-year-old, it's like, of course he likes art, right? Every 5-year-old is creating art, but the older boys, definitely show some interest in art. Our 16-year-old sees himself as some kind of creator, not necessarily a painter, but he sees himself as a creative person, that something he will do is creative. And so the 13-year-old has recently embraced that. When they were younger, they felt like, no way could I do painting because dad's claimed painting. You know, I have claimed all of painting. There's no way there's room for them to do anything in painting. But as they get older, I think they start to get some perspective and realize to go, well, there's probably room that if I did that, but of course, they could do so many different creative things, and then we'll try to guide them along to whatever they're excited about, and hopefully give them that same experience of getting to chase something that they love. I think not everyone's fortunate enough to get to do that in life, and I want, certainly am really grateful to have gotten to do this, and want to, much as we can, give them that same opportunity. So, yeah, kind of you can see just some kind of what things happened in my studio. So that's kind of my main painting area. We have this. Love this idea of, I think Mel heard on a podcast, to choose easy and work hard. Trying to make things as low resistance as possible in the studio. So I have extra materials, extra canvases. I have two to three assistants that do a variety of things. I've got kind of like somebody who's focused on building maintenance at this point and keeping up on that kind of stuff. A guy who does builds canvases, framing, and they overlap a ton with what they do. And then I have our framer, his wife, does a little bit of painting work on my paintings, kind of like basic fill-in things. And kind of she does that for me part-time while she is also a painter and pursues her career. So just getting a little bit of help on a few things as much as we can, and having the least resistance. You can see my computer there is a rolling cart. I have a projector on that. I use tracing paper all the time. I have tons of, all the words I have in my paintings, all that lettering. It's really easy if you transfer it, I'll do tons of transfers on tracing paper where I'm getting the lettering just like I want, because so much of it, it's almost all usually invented branding, right? I'm using Crayola or Folgers coffee cans or whatever these things are, but then I'm changing them to what I'm doing. So trying to get that, it's very hard to just freehand around a can, a label, and have everything line up where you want it like it's designed. You need to essentially try to take advantage as much as you can. So in any way, choose easy, work hard. It's still hard to get it crafted the way I want it and do it, try to get to the highest standard you can, I guess. So anyway, we'll move faster. I got nudged. We make lists. Like I said, we kind of think of ourselves as a hive mind working together. So as we get into shows, Mel will she'll make out a show sheet of what we think the theme is, what location. We're always theming the art. So, like the one you see down here, Red Sox spray paint, is because we have a gallery in Boston. We're not shipping it, to Jackson Hole. So, but it's really fun for us too to kind of be a little bit regional as we expand it out there to go, why not tailor it to where it's going? So, we have a lot of Western galleries, and I love using Western imagery, so that's really fun. But when we go to Boston, it's really fun to go, colonial subject matter, or the Boston, things like this, the Red Sox. I'm requested to do an Etch-a-Sketch with the Celtics theme for the gallery. That was the latest request there by the gallery owner. So, another one here, we got more studios. So on the right is a picture of our spray room where we retouch. We got latest paintings that were just at a show in Park City. We got American Gothic became the American Moguls, and they're skiers now. And then the room on the left is my drying room. I call it the cook room because it's 85 degrees. I have one of those little oil heaters there that keeps the room, because basically everything I do is oil on canvas. So I'm trying to, I'll work on a lot of paintings. Say, probably at any one time I have 5 to 20 paintings going. And so I'll work on them. You can see, you see crayon boxes, they're just getting started, right? And then they're drying and waiting for that next layer where they're going to get their theme. And we have various states, and it's also really nice because then I can not look at them for a while. So it really is a big deal to have that, to go bring them back out and have fresh eyes and feel like they're not fatigued. So that ability to kind of put them away. This, by the way, was Dave Dornan, this is how he works and how he taught. It's what he teaches, and I adopted that because it seemed like it worked good. And then just we got a quick slide of what kind of our gallery. So Park City, Boston, Sun Valley, Jackson Hole, Palm Desert, Scottsdale. We're too spread out. We're overly spread out. Everybody, we don't get, so essentially the way it works, as maybe some or all of you know, we get paid, primarily what we do is we create the paintings, they go to a gallery, they're on consignment when they sell. The gallery gets paid, they send us a check for half. And that's generally how it works. There's some variations in there. We do some commissions and work, so we'll have some guaranteed money ahead of time. But primarily what we've made our bones on is doing that on consignment strategy. And basically all the galleries we've been with long term because they're trustworthy. We only got not paid one time, and that was the end of that on that one. So yeah, you need that. I think we got it's a good little video here we'll play that we don't have to have any sound I can talk over to keep us speeding along. But what's that? Oh, it does have sound, but it doesn't. How can I compete with that? Kind of goes through the process here of a Lego painting. It's so much more interesting in this game, let me tell you. Yeah, that kind of gives you a sense of that. So I designed that Lego, right? That's based on a Matisse cut paper collage piece that I then turned into an actual Lego because to paint, it was just easier to actually build it. So I kind of varied, like as the subject matter varies, I vary how I craft it. So if I'm doing a barn, often I'm usually just sourcing those off Google because it's too hard to get, I can't travel. I don't want to travel the country just looking for barns to photograph and for the right lighting. So it's way easier to go to Google and find things. And so I set up still life, so actually build the Lego. It's like each piece you just do, again, whatever is that it feels like enough resistance to me. I don't need to make it any harder as the kind of use the quickest things. So distractions. Hopefully healthy, not fantasy football related. The one that's total waste of my time. The productive one though is that the old studio building that we showed a picture of earlier, we have converted to a retail store. So I'm demonstrating some of the merchandise here today. We have T-shirts, cards, all kinds of stuff, and that it kind of gave that talk about Kincaid, and I think of what he did in the art. And there's a kind of as an artist, you get questions like, do you do prints, and what's your relationship with prints? And there's a lot of, I think that, how does that affect your market and different things. And so, with this one, I love this is out of a book about postmodernism. And right, it says the more Van Gogh's sunflowers become a poster cliche, the more you have to pay for the original. And that kind of, it's a funny notion in that way that, in a sense, some people see it as a devaluing of the work, depending on how you do prints. And there can be some of that idea that it's not a one-off original. And there's merit in that, like all these, it's not there's no merit in that, but I think we have posters in our store, but we make fun of, like the cat poster that's there, that's based off the problems with photorealism. I called that whole group, I did a group of paintings called it Problems with Photorealism. But this specific one is Curiosity, because the cat, the cat it's so well painted that the cat has decided that, waiting for that fish to get a chance. And we made so this is a picture of the print we mark it more as like a poster print. And it is an edition of 9, and the first one in the edition is number 10. So we did 9 because the cat has 9 lives. It's funny, but it's an open edition print. So the first one's 10 of 9, then 11 of 9, and 12. And so we're trying to, we have fun with it, right? We're not gonna. we're gonna make it about that and this idea of exclusivity or not, and play with this notion. And the store allows us to do that in a way that's different. I love the idea that you could have it. I get to wear. I get to wear the T-shirt. That somebody could have a T-shirt or get a postcard or a sticker, and that you don't necessarily, as grateful as we are to have people spend money on original paintings, and that keeps us, that butters the bread for us as our primary thing, that you don't necessarily have to be wealthy to enjoy art and get to, that's the whole point of a museum, right? Is that it's back to the people, and that they have it, you can come in and for a modest price you can get to see amazing things. And so I think that's on a much lower level, we're trying to do that and keep it available. And because we don't live in a community with a lot of money, we want it to be, so have those products. We have the high-end, of course we have some fine art in there too, but we have a candy counter, things to make it available to the community. And I think my work is about, it's accessible. And so we're leaning into that and trying to make it, to go with that and make it fun. So the one thing that's missing, so Mel studied print journalism and was an English minor. So the written word is her ultimate craft. And the idea of us truly collaborating on something in the form of a children's book is what we are, is the cutting edge of what we're excited about here for the store. So we have our first one in process. I wish we had it done. We'd brought some with us, but it's an ongoing thing of Vincent van Gogh that pairs Van Gogh with the wording and the vocabulary of Edgar Allan Poe. It's the morose visual artist meets the morose writer. And so the writer manifests in the book as the raven. And so the raven is the storyteller, always in here. And so we have the actual grave scene. So there's the photo of the actual grave where Vincent and his brother Theo are buried. And we've used that as a base and convert that into the painting you see here with the actual ghost is imported in Photoshop. We have him as a separate painting, and he floats around, of course. But now he gets moved into different, the story arc is that his grave is being violated by these other art movements. And so, Mondrian has made a mockery of his space. And then, of course, Dali has to have his, and we have Picasso and, who am I missing? We got Picasso and Warhol. Of course, Warhol, it ends at Warhol, where he can't, the American mass production is the final straw that breaks him, that he can't handle. So we're working on that. We hope it will be done in September. We're trying hard to work it in, but with art deadlines, it's tough. Murals, you saw the ones on the building, and this is just, we'll go quickly here, but this one, our brother-in-law, who is an insurance business in Idaho Falls, asked us if we'd do a mural in his cool downtown building. And he wanted it to be interactive. He'd seen those murals where they're like angel wings and you pose in front of them, and so you can interact with them, and he loved that idea. Because he goes, my business is awful, I sell insurance. It's so boring, I need things that make it exciting. So we see that we did this where the buffalo is here, and you can't see it in this one, but we're gonna see now. We put a tractor seat on there on the wall so you can pose like you're getting gored. And up above it, we have funny hashtags like don't get buffaloed, practice safe selfies, that kind of thing. So just, again, trying to be playful and fun. And I'm definitely not going to do a lot of murals. That was a brother-in-law thing for me. I'm an indoor cat, but it was fun. It was really fun to get to do, and another fun way to kind of get to present. Again, we had the night before we flew out here, we had a Girl Scout troop through the studio for a little tour for their Art Merit Badge. And one of the girls like, so is AI going to replace you? And that's I think it's relevant to the whole world, not just artists. But we thought we'd have some fun with that to end here to kind of show what AI can do, because it is a cool tool. This is a crayon box here that's at the Delta Sky Lounge in Salt Lake. Mel's asked it, given it a nice prompt here, right, to do show me a crayon box scene in the Utah desert with a train, and it's done an interesting job of that. I think it's strongly influenced by a Crayola box, and Again, I think it's something that, for me, I look at it more at this point, at least.
I like yours better.
Yeah? I feel like it might be a little more integrated. It feels like we've got three distinct things going there. But anyway, okay, Park City, this is a famous barn just outside of Park City. I paint a lot of times, and now I feel like it belongs, its version is going to go to the Dali Museum here maybe. We've broken, again, it's inspiring to think like, just have the sign come right off the barn, you know, don't be limited. It opens up our mind. But yeah, it's just interesting how, it's kind of like when I think CGI came out in movies, when that first became a tool, it's like Hollywood was so enamored with that. It's like, it was all about this CGI. It was like, oh, but what about a script still? You know, you have to marry these things. And if you integrate that, I felt that as an artist learning, I remember using the airbrush, and it's like, oh, this is so cool. Well, you can use an airbrush in your paintings. I don't anymore because it's too much work, but it's just a tool that has to integrate in the process, and you can get enamored with it and get lost to go, it's just one thing. So to finish up here, though, that would be fun to do a couple that are in the exhibit upstairs. We got, you know, again, it's curious. I can't say, I can't turn it. It might be a car crash, but I can't turn away. Yeah. Look at on that one. Oh, sorry, the Etch-a-Sketch. I just love it. Does this. I don't know if you guys have used it a lot, but it's Etch-a-Sketch. It's like it can't do the writing. The words get weird. It's like, what is, we have an extra C in there for some reason. I don't know why, but we do. And then the Russell coffee here. No, for whatever reason, that prompt was no good. It doesn't like it. Try it again. No, still not. Oh, finally. Yeah. Anyway, you know, it's curious. That's it, guys.
All right, we're going to start to bring the microphone around.
What is your relationship with the Jays?
Gratitude. I was fortunate enough to get fortunate enough to catch the eye of these lucky collectors here, and that they kind of started to purchase some of my work, and then as that, they'd have to describe how I get to become here. They decided to do an exhibit of my work specifically for the museum. I'm not sure, but yeah, very grateful. Very grateful that I got to have one. I feel very flattering that. It did me really proud.
I should respond.
Yes, this is the person that can answer the question here.
I was in Park City and walked into a gallery and saw an artist that very creatively was dealing with the art of other famous artists. And I said, some of them were parodies, some of them were, if you've seen some of the dollies with the long legs and all, Dali's very easy to do this with, so he's a favorite artist to do things like that with. But all the artists have things that they do that you can somehow utilize in a painting. And he was doing it, and I said, wow, is that innovative? That's really a good way to even create more interest in some of these artists, and I think it's very good. So Mary and I started collecting, as most of you might know, back when we were in college, and on Sunday afternoons I would drive out from my college in Boston and go to an area where they had a lot of artists who had their own galleries. And so I decided I'd always talk to the artists and learn a lot about them. And if they were in a gallery, I'd talk to the gallery owner and learn about, what's his relationship with the artist? Why is he selling this artist? I learned all about the business. And if you think about all the ramifications of things that you can do, and you got guys like Van Gogh and other artists who paint unusual kinds of things, you can either do something that utilizes the same technique, or you can just change the technique in some way that makes it more interesting for you. So I would tell you, I started buying one or two of those, and pretty soon I bought quite a few of his paintings. And he wasn't that expensive. Now that I know where he lives, I understand that. But the fact is, he's a very fine artist himself. I mean, is this painting if you want to look at something realistically and say, is this a good job of doing that? And if you can tell other stories about the story that the painter was telling in that other painting, it even gets more interesting. So what I would tell you is, that's why he intrigued me, and it's never stopped intriguing me, and I'd buy other subjects he did. He's a very talented artist.
You are obviously, to all of us, very talented. My question is, you've used Cezanne and Dali and different artists. Have you ever thought about using famous authors like Shakespeare and Oscar Wilde and Edgar Allan Poe? Because I could just imagine, with your mind and your talent, just another whole realm of puns and fun and jokes. Thank you.
Yes. So I've just dipped the toe. Obviously the children's books using some of that, but I have done Poe again as I did the Raven, instead of a box of black crows, I made it that with him using that. Oh yeah, and then as a motel, I made it the Raven Inn. Cheesy puns. They're going to work here. Yeah, actually think it's that. So a little bit, but I definitely think more. We have a gallery in Sun Valley, and keep thinking like Hemingway. Hemingway should make an appearance because he spent so much time there, but it hasn't happened yet. So I do think, though, it's another totally fertile ground for us to mine.
Ben, now welcome to St. Pete.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop smiling long enough and ask you a legit question, because that's what your art does. It makes us smile. Process. In your Matisse and Lego, I saw some outlining. You talked about tracing paper for fonts. What about the rest of the image? Are you sketching these?
Combination, again, it's this, whatever applies to that specific painting. So pretty much everything starts, so like I said, almost everything's oil on canvas, starting with usually a pencil drawing in some form as a basic layout. So on the Lego, it's trying to it works really well to build it, photograph it, and then kind of transfer that onto, get that kind of going. So it's a combination of projecting it and kind of locating it, and then imposing a structure, because like that. So I again, cheating is any kind of cheating I'm up for. But the projector is this great tool, but it doesn't. But it like any tool, it distorts, it changes, it does things. You have to correct it.
I can attest to that part. I've tried to use the projector and I'm all over the place. It's a skill set even to use the tools that he uses.
I had the most jarring thing that I got a lesson in what the projector can and can't do was my sister and her husband. He's English, and they came over. They live in the UK. They come to visit, and they were there for a couple of weeks. He said, "I want to do a painting of my sister for her while I'm here to give to her as a gift, because he loves art and wants to be at the studio." So I said, "Okay, well, if you get a good photo of her, we'll project it up." And he drew it, and she had football eyes. But the projector was right there. This good drawing is right there, but no, it didn't translate. It looked like a beginning art class drawing of somebody who has never studied anything. I was like, whoa. To me, it's like this ultimate hack, and to
to somebody who wasn't trained, they couldn't use it, like, he couldn't do it at all. So for me, it's like I'm projecting, so when I get that Lego, I project it up, get it. The beauty of a projector, more than anything, is the ability to change composition quickly and test things. You know, how big should it be? How small should it be? You have a landscape, how much do you want to crop off of the barn on this side? What does it look like when it scales in and out? I'm often changing the canvas size to fit the image. And so it's like this scissoring back and forth just to get a start for what makes sense in the scale. Because the last thing you want to do is to work on a painting for 20 hours and realize that the barn should be 3 inches to the right, 2 inches taller, right? Like you can't invest that kind of time in something that doesn't sit in the right spot. You built the house 3 feet off, just move the house over. Great, good luck. So in that case, like I project that Lego up, and then I'm correcting it because the projector's going to, it's not going to project straight. The lines aren't straight in the Lego. I want the Lego, to be perfectly straight. So I'm redrawing with a ruler to get that vanishing points and finding things, and it can be quite intricate in the sense to just correct what is supposedly something that's saving you. It is saving time, but it's still needed there. So there's this back and forth. Again, that's a Lego. Other things are very different. I have templates even like for crayon boxes or things where on tracing paper, or I'll have like cardboard cutouts of them so I can put them up and move them around. That way, again, where I can try to get, Dave, my art mentor, he would talk about, he's like trying to get to the parts that give him the most excitement in a painting and cut through the parts that are more basic, for him, so basic layout, and his stuff's all about like 3D paint, and it's almost like painting the studio, and so he's moving through really quickly with stencils to get things moved around and get the composition working, and then he starts into the details of modeling the jar or things. So it really is, though, because my subject matter varies so wildly, each one is its own very specific process.
Everyone's original. Last question. You leverage great artists, great works of art. Do you ever run into copyright issues?
That's a great question. And so essentially, no. We've consulted with 2 copyright lawyers over the years just to kind of see that as it works. I've never been approached by anyone. We've never had anyone say, quit doing, don't do this, or we've never had anybody actually come after us for anything. But my sense is that using it in kind of you're given some artistic license. We're making commentary on things. So some of that, and the fact that it's a one-off original. We're not competing with. If we convert to a print, we're trying to sell 1 million of them. Then maybe we might be infringing on our business or something to that effect. But we've not really had any issue with it as a one-off original, and the lawyers kind of convey that messaging. So take it that we're, I guess if somebody does ask that of us, we'll take it under consideration. But to this point, we've been getting away with it. So yeah.
Quick question about your, manual output. So you used to be prolific. You were in that studio 7 days a week. So on average, how many paintings are you painting a year? I guess on average, due to your current.
I don't know. I don't have. You'd think I would have a number. Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't. Maybe we're not.
Decided not to continue. It felt like it got to question and answers. It did its job.
Yeah.
I thought I was done here.
I know.
Okay, is that better? There we go. So I don't have an exact number for you. I would say I'm trying to do, I don't know, what do you think? I think my goal, because it shows and that, and for a while, I started to track my hours on paintings because I was curious, and that lasted for about a week. And I was like, this is too much work. And I realized I didn't like that relationship with it in the way that it's done when it's done. I do think because I work a lot, I would say I'm more prolific than probably the majority of people that paint with a level of realism that I'm painting with. My size are bigger, but I would say, maybe like 75 in a year. Give or take. So it depends on scale, right? If I'm doing bigger ones, less, it varies. And again, we're not tracking. So I'm trying to keep some hint of artistic integrity. Yeah, because it is. I do think, though, I like to move. You find that, like, again, that style conversation of you find your style and your personality. I do think, I mean, in theory, I could just work on them. I could just keep working on all of them, right? They're not done. I mean, if I want them tighter, I could make them tighter. There's definitely a thing in my work that I don't, there's kind of some modern, I have the artists I like Warhol, but I definitely want some modern influence in there. It's like some combination between modern art and trompe-l'oeil, and so the bending of all these different genres. But I don't, as much as I can respect that kind of, hyper detail or really great painting, you have to find what appeals to you. And so the style I have and the way that I, go doing 75 a year versus doing 25 a year is the speed at which the work that I'm comfortable doing at that level of finish. And that's the kind of thing that you can only find by, I think, working a lot and kind of finding what your rhythm is and what you want, who you want to be. And everybody's personality is so varied that way that, that's great if you're a 10 painting a year artist. That's just not me. So, yeah. My favorite. I think if there's one, like from a painting style, Vermeer is always the one that I like from an art. I love his ability to be, it's realism, but that's the soft edges that he has and the delicate nature and the color balance. And so of that kind of classic technique, Vermeer's the one that stands out for me. But I really do think it's like it's this whole art world that I can just like reach in and grab out a piece. And I like, I always love that love of art history that to go, I admire all those different styles in a way. And so to try to, and by getting to use them all, I can try to be fresh to go, oh, we're in modern art. So it's more, it's empty and more flat space. As I went through the museum and you see all this talent that's here, this amazing group of painters, and you see one, so, oh, look at this beautiful realism. And then you go and you see, a Fritz Scholder up there where it's like this very clean pop art thing. And I go, but the simple and the color and the space, it's like there's room to breathe in a way that in some of the realism ones, you go, wow, look at all the skill. But I respond to some of the simple of the other parts that, the Warhol element that where you just like, wow, he's simplified it down so much. And I might not look to him as, skilled to draw or something, but, but his design is really cool. And his commentary of using these other things are really appealing to me too. So how do you, blend all that together? I guess that was the task I was set for. I do music, podcasting, and then even occasionally do some, seems like in the evenings, Netflix or something like that. Like I try to structure my day so the morning is about creation and midday is about really doing a lot of moving into the work sense. But that morning when I'm fresh is what I want to create. And then by the evening when I have no low energy, it's like I've left myself, the simplest task possible to do. And then I'll be, time to watch a show while I'm doing a simple task. So really, again, setting it to mood. It is like, varying based on where I am at the time and what I can do. Because when I'm designing, laying out paintings, like I can't have a podcast going, but music is great. So, yeah.
Was your initial idea actually to use the Crayola based on Dali and what he did with the Venus paintings to create the hallucinogenic and then meld with Warhol and make that your kind of persona?
Yeah. Well, that's hard to repeat. Yeah, to use, using Crayola to, as like a hallucinogenic with Dali to create a Warhol. I think, try to paraphrase. I would say that was beyond where I was at the time. I was just like, crayons are colorful, they're cool. Yeah, okay. We're trying to gain sophistication here over time. So, I mean, I think that was kind of, the fun thing about painting other artists. It was, I tell the joke with Mel that I got, paid to copy and learn. by using it as subject matter, I was like, I could try these different styles and learn those different ways to paint and kind of grow my skills. And in doing so, it's that chance to get to research. I think that's really fun when Mel gets to make an idea list for a show. It's often fun that we have a new idea and she or I get to do research because she loves it. She loves doing it in her version too, where you get to learn about something. When we go, dive deeply, you get to kind of learn. So if we're doing a show, if I was doing a show here in the town or at the museum or something, you go, ooh, how could we tailor this to Florida? How could we tailor it to the people involved here, the collection? That research is super fun, right? It's a way to engage. So learning about Dali and his, we were at the museum yesterday because I'd never been. This is our first time in Florida. And my dad had been pestering me. He was here about 10 or 15 years ago and said, you have to go to that Dali museum. It's so amazing. And I was just learning, was it nuclear mysticism that he had? Things like, oh, I didn't even know about this. And that's fun, though. What you're suggesting is the process that we go through of learning about these things and where you go, oh, this could have there could be a whole new line of work out of this, so it's really fun for us. Again, it keeps us engaged.
How do you come up with the pun ideas with all your different artists? Jam session in the morning?
Our bad pun.
How does that happen?
It's it's kind of comes from everywhere a little bit. I mean, we've had people suggest this. We did one time with Matisse, somebody that I did a painting for them. They had the idea of Matisse's pieces instead of Reese's pieces, and they brought that to us. And then I did several other works that were inspired by that. I did the commission for them, and then pretty soon we had a gumball machine with Matisse's pieces on it. So, we kind of we do have jam sessions. Her father called me one day and said, everyone says, they don't say mayonnaise, they say mayonnaise. And he's like, think of that, mayonnaise. So of course, that became, so yeah, put it on so mayonnaise got right on the mayo jar right there. That was I'm like, brilliant, yeah. So it really is, we have our own jam sessions and we have fun. One day her sister says, she's like, you guys get paid to think stuff up. But she didn't say stuff. And, that's, again, that's what keeps us, it's fun, right? We just get to brainstorm in the store, having the store and shirts. So we have a shirt now and a mural that was in there that says Hamburger Helper for our town. Yeah, and so that simply got to exist because we go, that could be a t-shirt. And then it became a mural. I did a little painting of it so we could make a t-shirt of it. And just that, so that just, somebody came to us, another artist in town, he goes, I thought of that. You didn't have a store. Yeah. So, yeah, we do, though. It's a constant. It's kind of, we work 7 days a week and there's no downtime. We're on all the time for brainstorming, and that's why we are, I got lucky to meet my perfect match that way. And so, we have a lot of fun together, and we get to work together all the time. So it's pretty cool.
Is your store online? Can we go on?
Yes, it is called Beg, Borrow, and Steal, and the name actually comes out of, I was doing, I think the first, it was in two paintings. It showed up first on the side. I was doing we'd visited New York, and I thought it'd be really cool to do a street scene. We saw two huge Banksy murals he had done, just had gone up, and we were there at the time, and I thought, it'd be funny to do, Jackson Pollock, and this is Jack the Ripper, or Jack the Ripper just became Jack the Dripper for his paint drips. And I go, it'd be really cool to do like a Banksy-esque, take the photo where the Banksy was of that street scene and put Jackson Pollock on there dripping and do it like a Banksy. And in it, I have there's a van parked on the street. And I thought, it'd be funny, we make it a brand. And so it was the Beg, Borrow, and Steal, like paint company, right? It's doing the mural. And we're just like, oh, that's funny. And then, here it comes. Now it's a store. It just felt too accurate for what we do, right? We could use our own name and that we're stealing. In fact, people will say to me to go, are you worried about somebody copying you? I think that'd be pretty rich for me to get upset about that. I don't think I can. I don't think I can get too upset if somebody's gonna have to. I'm gonna have to make myself fair game.
Well, thank you all for coming out. Let's once again thank Ben Steele for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate everybody coming out. It's really awesome. It's our
Get
pleasure
online,
to be here.
shop at their shop. We have a shop if you want to shop at it. And yeah, thank you.
Their shop is cool.